Some books are stories, others are spells. Today's conversation is about reclaiming wonder, perspective, and the quiet magic that reshapes how we see our lives. Abracadabra isn't just a launch, it's an invitation to remember that transformation often begins with how we choose to look at the world. Welcome, Terry, to my show. It's a pleasure to host you today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me very much so.
The,
Thank you.
the pleasure is all mine. So I'm really excited to know about Abracadabra today. You've spoken about seeing life through rose-colored glasses from a young age. When did you first realize that perspective itself could be a form of power?
Well, when you were living as we're growing up, I mean, a lot of us feel as though no family has dysfunction, right? And mine included. And I was the youngest of parents that divorced um previous to having me. So I was the only child with a lot of chaos going on around me, between their own divorces and kids and stuff. And I was the one who was called the sunshine child. I was the one who tried to keep happiness in almost as a distraction, right? From a lot of what was going on. And that, I think, in the very early stages of my life, started to speak in a different way. Even at 8 years old, I realized I was uniquely different from what was happening around me. And trying to kind of balance myself in the chaos and the dysfunction and positivity and laughter and just enjoying the moments that we had. I understood the importance of that. And so that was me from a very early age on. Um, I explain on my website, terrybeanauthor.com, and such about my journey in 4th grade. I even remember her name, Mrs. Liebert, who decided to cast me in 4th grade as the Mother Nature. So I always say I have a direct contact with Mother Nature when it starts to get really crappy weather. I'm like, okay, we got this. But what I'll say is I got up on stage with horrible, just, goggles, and the world was messy and was polluted and all this, and at the end I was in this beautiful rose uh, beautiful gown with rose colored glasses, and I think that really clung to me and stuck with me, and I just always see the world as the glass being full, not half full, full. And that's kind of the way I roll. Yeah. It's exciting. Abracadabra. I'm not sure where you're gonna wanna ask questions because I can go on and on, by the way. But Abracadabra came out in of my mind in actually 2014. So it's been a while and it's been out there. I just always knew that I would publish it, and through my journey with Mind Valley and becoming a life coach, I said, now's the time. And I met astounding illustrators. I mean, they just did a magnificent job on this book. When you go to terrybeanauthor.com, you'll see the book's cover and you'll even be able to read a little bit of it. Um, but Abracadabra is about a journey of a little girl whose parents are fighting and she's running away from them in tears. Most children's books don't open that way. And what I'm trying to do is let people know, that I think we all in some ways run from things that are just very upsetting. Some of us can cry and some of us don't, and there's no right or wrong there. And here's this little girl who's running. She's going down to her favorite spot down by the lake. And when she goes down to that lake, she sees her image in that lake, right? And when she sees the image in the lake and finds a branch, that image becomes her sage and starts talking to her about the power within, right? And when you introduced me in saying how it's about perspective, and that's what I've seen. I realized in my older years, I've realized that perspective is everything, absolutely everything. It is actually that simple. Our perspective can change, and we have the power to do that. We have the choice to do that at every single moment of time. If we teach our children that early on, my vision is that they can create lives that they love. And when people create lives that they love, they're kinder. They're kinder individuals. They grow up to be kinder adults, more connected to themselves and more connected to other people around them. And hence, we'll have a kinder world. And that's the world I'm visualizing.
Amazing. And I think that perspective is a pretty important thing. I mean, your perspective of your childhood made you, shaped you into the person that you are today. And now you are able to change others' perspectives through your work, which is again pretty amazing. So yeah, it's nice to know that, and it's really amazing to know that children will be able to read your book, and you know their perspective will change on how they look at the world. So amazing. The story of Abracadabra, like you just said, it lived inside you for years before becoming real. What do you think some stories wait for? Why do you think some stories wait for the right season to be released?
Well, it's kind of like, when you meet people, right? You meet people for reasons and seasons. Well, books can come into your mind and you can maybe write them down, but things have to align, right? For me, this book is my one focus, my complete passion. I think that's where I needed to be to bring it out to the world. If I brought it out at any other time, and I brought out a couple of other books, my passion wasn't there to really market them and get out there on podcasts like this, etc. I I didn't have the passion behind it. This is a huge undertaking and a big journey and a message that I feel is so important, especially right now, all over the world, not only in America, where we have about 80% of the people going through life where they don't really enjoy what they're doing and who they've become. And if we learn that very early on, we get taught that later on, right? As we get into personal development and all this jazz. But the kids aren't really taught that. So to touch them in a way early enough where they get their power within and they start speaking to, as I call it, their wizard inside of them, it's going to be a very different world. So, yeah, I just think, I think timing is everything. I always said, because I was in the real estate business for a while, that timing and liquidity is everything, and that's a true point as well. There's a lot to be said about timing. Back in November of 2024, I put it out to my Facebook group to to see if I could get an illustrator, right? And I just got absolutely slammed with people. People I didn't know, people calling me, people, because I left myself wide open and I shut the whole thing down. I just shut it down. I was so overwhelmed and it just wasn't the right time. Now, I could have forced it. You know how you force things? And you know that if you're forcing it, the outcome of forcing something usually isn't exactly what you desired. You're going through a lot more bumps when you're forcing something. But when you're aligned with something and you're just passionate about it, it's amazing. I and you let go of the outcome. That's very important. When I decided in March to reach out myself to to an illustrationist through Fiverr, which I did. It was the first person, and then their introduction, and you could read the whole story. It was just it's powerful what happened, and it's a beautifully illustrated book that I could truly be proud of right now, and I'm excited to to launch it in the beginning of January. Really, really excited for this. Yeah.
That sounds wonderful, and definitely, even I believe that some things, some people, or whether it be stories or people, they come into our life at the right time. There is a specific time for everything, and I think this story has come to you exactly at the right time, where I think the world definitely needs it. So I just want to ask on that note, what had to change inside of you before this book could come into the world?
What had to change inside of me? I think it was trusting myself. I think there's trust, um, and there's when you have trust, you have little doubt, right? So they're both kind of the two sides of the game. And again, it becomes perspective. Where do I want to focus my energy and focus where I want to be standing and grounded in? And the way I felt super grounded was, first of all, having a tremendous community around me of support. And I think that's extremely important in anything we do, to have that community. I think we're all looking for community. I have a lot to say about that. Yet, I think that is what brought me to the place, and also giving, a little bit of a risk. When I met Rhonda, who helped with the cover, she introduced me to Jay, and Jay, who I didn't know, was actually the visual director. And I had no idea that he was, but here he was. Here's the two of them, just like you and I are. Now I'm kind of interviewing them, and I didn't know who he was. I thought I was gonna be just interviewing Rhonda, so of course I came in with, like, red flag skepticism at first, and then I said, "Okay, Tara, let's give these kids a shot," you know? And I did, and then Jay and I just ran away with the book. He was so empowered by the message, honestly, and I'll be having a recording of him. He said to me, "Terry, this is the most inspiring story I've ever read," and that's all he does is children's books. He said, "For a child, this is the most inspiring book, and if I had this book before the age of 18, I would not have gone through the crap that I went through." Could have said a harder word. I didn't want to. So, anyway, what a journey it's been. Truly, truly an amazing journey.
Yeah, it's fascinating how creation often requires inner alignment before outer action, and your case is the prime example. So, your career spans corporate life, entrepreneurship, reinvention, and coaching. How did each chapter refine the message of magic rather than dilute it?
I think because of the my mindset and being a very positive individual, and looking at there's two sides of a stick. There's positive and there's negative. Which side of the stick do I want to focus on? Right? No matter what the situation. And understanding, and I believe this more true now than ever, that there really is a gift in everything, whether good or bad. If we can find the gift and focus there, I'm not saying bad things don't happen. I'm not saying that we don't cry and we don't feel things, feel anger, but how long are you going to stay in that? That's the power. How long are you really going to stay in that ickiness, as I like to call it? Because none of us feel good when it's icky, right? So to get us out of that takes thought. It takes, what are we going to focus on next? And how quick can we go there? Okay. So I think for me, I was able to do that through every single thing. I always knew that there'd be another journey, that life is about journeys. They're about little journeys. It's not a beginning and an end, and it has to end hard. And it's more about the journey and what you're going to take from that experience to the next experience and then to the next experience. And what did you learn from that last experience? Right. So I think at every point in my life, I kind of had that perspective on it's a journey. Let's have fun with this. It's the most important thing to me. And I believe to everybody should be to have fun. Have fun in what you're doing, have fun in your relationship, to have fun in the journey. And even when it doesn't feel fun, I could promise you that if you bring some form of laughter or some form of just lightness to it, it completely changes the experience. I am dealing right now with a mom who's 91 years old, who's a tough cookie. All right. She's amazing, but she's a tough cookie. And there are times when I want to pull my hair out. And if I just shift it, and I know that if I just put that little smile on my face, she will smile. And it completely changes the dynamic in that moment. So, yeah, I've been able to do that through life and really have been able to bring that perspective for sure.
That's some amazing advice, Terry. Thank you so much for sharing it. And like I've always said, the journey is always better than the destination. So, yes, you should definitely enjoy every step of the process. So, did any chapter almost convince you to abandon the story entirely?
Oh, not at all. First of all, the books are children's books, right? So it's for a 6 to 9-year-old, but I always say it's from 6 to 60 and over. Okay, that's one. Second, there's 785 words and it's 21 pages, right? So it's a short book. So it's not like a chapter book. It's not a novel or anything like that. It also, as you may know, comes with the possibility of getting a coloring book. And the coloring book is extraordinary because it brings those illustrations into sketches that people could really get creative and build their own story as well on who they want to be or do or have when they grow up. And listen, some of us 60-year-olds are not grown up yet. So you could grab that book and literally write down what you're thinking about for your next chapter in your life, right? Also, there are little bubbles. I forget what you call them, for where people say things. And I get the opportunity for uh, a little or a big person to write down certain words that they can wake up to, that they can speak out into the universe. So they're literally preparing and pre paving their day. And that's a huge part of the journey, too. We have to get into the right mindset. I did for our call today. It's, whether it's breath work, whether it's dancing, whether it's just moving your body, whatever it is, to prepare for different things in your life. Yeah.
That arc mirrors how many people feel magic delayed but not lost. And I really admire your trust in that book because I've heard from many authors, from many writers, that they feel this writer's block whenever they are writing a story, working on a project. So, yeah, my question is that did you ever come across such a problem, or was the entire story, the entire idea always refined in your head?
So this story being written so long ago in 2014, I think I was around different people that were, and even today, that's the way it is. There are a lot of cynical people, especially now here in America. And I think that's why the timing on this book is so important. Yet, back then, that's what was happening. And here I am, in kind of my trying to bring the happy perspective on it. And the story just basically flowed out of me. Now, there have been other books I've written in the past, one that I'm gonna be rewriting about conflict resolution, which is very much in line with, what I do and the work I do. That book, I definitely had some stops. Okay, what should be the next chapter? What should be the next discussion, right? But it all revolves around the same thing, which I'll come full circle here with you, which is perspective. It's perspective on the conflict, right? Whatever conflict it is. So conflict does not have to be bad either, right? So there's contrast in life, and contrast does not have to be bad. It's all a lesson. It's all in the journey. It's all in how you look at it.
And I think that is something that made the book even more special because you put so much effort into it. So it's really evident. Um, Lastly, Terry, for readers opening Abracadabra, what shift do you hope happens before they even finish the book?
Well, I would like what I really want is Lady Gaga to get on stage with this book because of her song Abracadabra. Guys, I had no idea. This is so funny that she came out with the song Abracadabra. I was so entrenched with this book from basically April on, right? So I think April is when her song came out. My friend in September puts it on. I flip out, like, absolutely out of my mind, and I love to dance. So here I am, I'm dancing in his kitchen, and I'm saying, "You gotta be kidding me." I said, "I have to get somehow in front of her and at least get her this book, and the coloring book." And that's gonna happen. So that's something that I wanna happen, before the release. Would love to just get as much exposure as possible and have people that once they see it, once they read it, that they're sharing it. They're really sharing it with the masses. And I'm getting into those schools and libraries, and it's going to be a very busy 2026 for Terry Bean. I'm going to be a busy bean, as I like to say. And I hope that people will join the bean team, as I also like to say. So it is not a destination. It is a journey, as you said. And I don't think anything has a destination, so to speak, because we always want more. We're human beings. That's what we do. So even if we feel like there's a destination, there isn't because we want more. So enjoy the journey, enjoy the more.
That's honestly amazing to know. And I really hope that Lady Gaga listens to this podcast and she reads the book and, if possible, even promote it because that would be amazing. But even without that, I think that this book is going to do wonders. I can feel it. And yeah, I am sure that our listeners will definitely want to buy it and read it. But other than that, like if they want to connect with you, which I know that they will after this podcast, or buy your book, can you just share with them how can they do that, or how can they? Where is your book available? Please share with them.
Please, thank you so much. So they can go on to terrybeanauthor.com, and there's a contact page there, and they can go in there. And also, there'll be a pop up if they want to get on my email list where I'm sending people, just like the countdown of the book. The book's going to be available, of course, on Ingram, Spark, as well as KDP, Amazon. And that's happening in the beginning of January. So go to terrybeanauthor.com. Uh, to email me direct, it's info@terrybeanauthor.com. Okay. Yeah. Thank you
Great.
so much for this. This is wonderful. And thank you for your inspiration, and also for your spark that that you're giving the world. It's very much appreciated. It's wonderful and needed.
Thank you so much, Terry. And I'll have all the details on my show listing so the listeners can freely connect with you and buy and read your book. So, dear listeners, if you have forgotten how to see beauty in the ordinary, let this be your reminder. Magic isn't about escaping reality, it's about engaging it with intention, courage, and heart. Choose your perspective wisely because the way you see the world quietly shapes what becomes possible next.